The stars above the Jeltor system were calm. Ships from many alien worlds floated silently in orbit. They had gathered for a peace summit. Old enemies had come with hopes of stopping the long years of war, but trust was thin. Even as they talked about peace, every ship kept weapons ready just in case. A giant space station, built by the Galactic Council, sat in the center. It was made of metal and light, and inside it, leaders from 50 different species sat around a large round table. Their voices were tense. Old grudges, broken promises, and fresh wounds were still fresh in many minds. They tried to find the right words, but fear sat in the air like thick smoke. Near the edge of the system, scout ships kept watch. They scanned everything that moved. No one wanted a surprise attack. It's not today. But something strange happened. A signal appeared. It didn't come from any known fleet. It wasn't a council ship, not an Empire vessel, not even pirate-coded. The signal was clean, strong, and steady. It wasn't asking for entry. It wasn't even speaking. Then space near the station rippled. A ship came out of slip space, right in the heart of the summit. Every ship froze. No one fired. No one moved. Not even a warning shot. The ship was massive, larger than any ship seen in recent centuries. Its hull was dark gray, covered in old battle scars, yet it moved smoothly. The ship had no bright colors, no banners, no music. Just a simple symbol on its side, a blue planet wrapped in a circle of stars. The Galactic Council recognized. Earth, some officers whispered the word like a ghost story. Humans. Others didn't believe it. Humans had left the known galaxy over 500 years ago. They were called Deathworlders back then, because of how they survived and fought. But after the last Great War, they vanished. No one had seen them since. But here they were. The human ship didn't say anything. It didn't open channels. It didn't aim its weapons. It just hovered in the space between the station and the fleets, calm and silent. Its engines were quiet, but scanners showed power levels higher than anything modern ships had. Some captains tried to scan it deeper, but their systems crashed. The leader of the Nelvari fleet, Commander Trell, spoke first. "Is this a trick?" he asked over open channel. "No known empire uses that symbol," answered a Zelri diplomat. "That's Earth's sign. No one would dare to fake it." But they left. They said they were done with war. Maybe someone brought them back. On board the human ship, no movement could be seen. No crew, no lights, nothing. Fear began to spread. The Calrun Empire moved one cruiser closer. Just a little. Test. The cruiser's engines barely pushed forward when its systems went dark. Not just the engines, everything. Life support, weapons, communication. The ship floated like a dead leaf in the wind. No attack was seen. No weapon fired. But the message was clear. Don't come closer. Even the bravest warriors from battle-hardened species stood still. No one wanted to challenge a warship that could silence another ship without firing a single shot. Inside the galactic station, the council went quiet. The argument stopped. All eyes turned to the main screen, where the human warship floated in the dark. A veteran diplomat from the Zorai leaned forward and spoke, his voice shaking. They said humans were gone, that they chose peace. But I remember history. They never promised peace forever. Only that they would return if the galaxy forgot its lesson. The room stayed quiet. Outside, the human ship began to turn. Slowly, it wasn't aiming at anything. It just drifted to a new position, as if it was watching, for waiting. Ships across the system powered down weapons. Some even backed away. A message was sent by the Galactic Council to the ship. No, reply. The ship did not need to speak. Its presence alone had already done enough. No one dared to move. The galaxy had not seen a human ship in centuries. Many young captains had never faced one. They had only heard old stories, passed down like scary tales at night. Some laughed at those stories before. Now none of them were laughing. The human warship stayed silent. No lights blinked on its hull. No voice came from its coms, yet its presence pressed on every ship in the system like a giant weight. On board a small observer ship, a young officer named Rika stared at her screen. She whispered to her captain, It's not even doing anything. Why does it feel like we're in danger? The captain, an old Shinari with metal plates on his face, replied, without looking away, because we are. When a human ship appears, it doesn't need to speak. The silence is already loud. Across the galactic station, fleet commanders argued. Some wanted to send a message again. Others warned that humans might see it as weakness, or worse, as disrespect. No one was sure what to do. In a dark corner of the council station, an old archivist named Dorvin sat in silence. He was one of the few who studied ancient records about Earth. He was young. He had written a report called The Sleeping Giants. No one had read it back then. He turned to the council speaker. "They're not here by accident," Dorvin said. "Humans never return unless someone breaks the old rules." "What rules?" asked a confused delegate. "The ones written in blood," Dorvin said quietly. On the Calron command ship, General Narek stood in front of his crew. He was proud and bold, known across 5 sectors. But today, he was careful. He opened a private channel to the human ship. "This is General Narek of the Calron command fleet. We seek peaceful contact." There was no answer. He waited 30 seconds, then repeated the message again. No reply. He turned to his second in command. "Prepare defensive shields. Do not target them. Just be ready." At the same time, far away from the main group, a small pirate ship tried to slip away. It had been hiding, watching, hoping for a chance to steal or escape. As it turned to leave the system, a flash of blue light touched it. No explosion. Out. No fire. Just silence. The pirate ship was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. The screen where its signal used to be showed only static. Ships nearby pulled back quickly. Fear spread like fire. A loud voice echoed through the system. It came from the galactic station's public channel, not from the human ship. "Do not move," the voice said. "Do not provoke. Do not test." It was the voice of the Zellery High Speaker. His eyes were wide. His scales had turned pale. I believe they are here for justice." The word made many aliens nervous. Justice? For what? In one of the lower decks, a young technician found something strange. A secret file had been sent hours ago, just before the human ship arrived. It was hidden deep, almost mist. It contained recordings, images, proof of illegal research being done by one of the major species on humans. Tests, traps, and something worse. The technician brought it to the head council. "Someone broke the treaty," Dorvin said, his voice steady now. This is why they're here." The recordings were shown to the leaders. They saw captured human explorers, long thought lost, being used in experiments. It was the Vorian Empire. Their emblems showed clearly in the footage. The council speaker turned pale. "We must send this to the human ship." But before anyone could act, the human ship moved. Not fast, just a shift. Its hull lit up for the first time. Thin blue lines ran along its surface. Not glowing, but alive. The Vorian fleet began to retreat. "Do not run," the Zellery speaker warned. "They will see that as guilt." But the Vorian ships didn't listen. They broke formation and turned to leave. The human warship did not chase. Instead, soft pulse of energy spread from it. One by one, the Vorian ships lost power. Not a blast, not a fire, just darkness. Life support stayed online. No one died. But the ships were useless. Drifting, the human ship returned to silence. No. One else moved. The message was clear. Humans had come not for war, not for power, but for justice. Quiet, precise, and impossible to stop. Now the whole galaxy was watching and remembering. The Gelter system, once full of noise and arguments, had gone completely quiet. No ships dared to move. No weapons dared to activate. No voice dared to challenge the silent giant floating in space. The human warship inside the galactic station. The council chamber remained frozen. The council speaker stood at the center, his fingers shaking as he held the data file. Around him, leaders from dozens of species looked at the screen. It still showed the disabled Vorian fleet drifting in space like forgotten metal. They didn't destroy them, someone whispered. No, Dorvin replied, his voice calm. They could have, but they didn't. The human warship had fired no weapons. It had used no threats. It only acted when the Vorians tried to flee. Even then, it only removed their ability to fight or escape. They gave a warning, Dorvin said. A final one. Meanwhile, inside a command ship of the Zelari fleet, Captain Larac stared at the human vessel on the main screen. The image was clear, sharp metal lines, thick armor, and that old Earth symbol. He had seen it in books. Now it was real. There. Not using modern tech? Lirac muttered. His science officer nodded. Nothing matches our current systems. Their engines, weapons, shields. We don't even understand how it works. How is that possible? Because they're not using what we know, the officer answered. They built their own way. They stopped copying others long ago. Back in the council, a heated discussion broke out. A few members still didn't trust the humans. What if this is just the beginning? A delegate from the Tharni species asked, what if they take this chance to strike fear into the whole galaxy? Dorvin shook his head. That's not how humans work. If they want a war, this summit would already be gone. They don't need to scare us. They need us to understand. Understand what? That their silence is stronger than our weapons. Suddenly, the lights in the chamber flickered. Then, without any warning, the council's screen turned black. Everyone turned toward it. A message appeared in plain white text. This is not a threat. This is the last reminder. Then, slowly, a voice followed. It was a human voice. Deep, calm, and clear. We watched. We waited. We hoped you would follow your own rules. One empire broke them. You saw the proof. Our action is complete. We expect the council to handle the rest. The voice paused for a moment. Do not make us return again. Then the screen faded back to normal. For a long minute, no one spoke. No one even breathed loudly. Rika, still in the observer ship, turned to her captain. That didn't sound angry. It sounded tired, as the captain said, because humans don't enjoy war. They do what must be done and then they leave. The Vorian Empire's ambassador stood up inside the chamber. His face showed fear, anger, and shame. We deny nothing, he said, but we didn't know those experiments were still active. Rogue scientists acted without permission. No one believed him, but no one interrupted. He bowed his head. We accept full responsibility. The council speaker nodded slowly. Then your empire will be judged by the council, not by human hands. Outside, the human warship turned again. It drifted toward the edge of the system. Engines hummed quietly like a breeze moving through deep space, and then it disappeared. No bright flash, no loud jump, just gone, like a shadow moving into the stars. Ships across the system let out quiet sighs of relief. Engines stayed off.
Number
One celebrated, not yet, because what they had seen would never be forgotten. In the weeks to follow, the news of the human ship spread through every system. Videos, data scans, eyewitness reports, everyone saw them. People who once laughed at the old Earth legends now fell silent. Even the strongest fleets began updating their old rules of contact. A new phrase appeared in military codes. If human presence is detected, do not engage. On a small station orbiting a distant moon, a young boy listened to the story from his grandfather. They didn't come to fight? He asked. No, the old man replied. They came to remind us. Remind us of what? That peace is a choice, the man said. And so is what happens when that choice is broken. Days passed after the human warship disappeared, but the galaxy was not the same. The silence it left behind was louder than any weapon. Fleets returned to their home sectors, but they moved slower now, with more care. Next, to provoke Earth. Inside the Galactic Council station, the atmosphere had changed. The Peace Summit had been paused after the incident, but now the Council had gathered again. This time, there were no loud voices, no shouting, just quiet talks and long looks. Dorvin sat at his usual spot, his hands folded, eyes focused. was not just a historian anymore. He had become the voice of memory. Others now looked to him when they didn't understand what had happened. One delegate asked, "Is it true that the humans had once saved us from a worse war?" Dorvin nodded. Yes. During the last great conflict, 500 years ago, it was the humans who stepped in. Not to rule, but to stop destruction. They ended a war no one else could. And then they left. Why? Another delegate asked. Because they wanted peace, but not forced peace. They believed every species must choose it freely. They said if we ever forgot that ... they would return. A chill ran through the chamber. On the far side of the station, Captain Lyrak stood at a window, watching ships come and go. He had stayed behind after the summit, not to guard, but to learn. He replayed the human warship's data again and again. Each time he found something new, something strange. No energy spikes, his science officer said. No heat. Radiation leaks. It had had enough power to shut down an entire fleet. Lyrak nodded, and it did it without damage. They could have destroyed the Vorians. They didn't come to destroy, the officer replied. They came to give a message. And we heard it, Lyrak said. Back in the council room, a vote was taking place. The Vorian Empire had been found guilty. Their research stations would be dismantled. Their leaders would answer before the council court. They had agreed without resistance, no threats, no delays. They were afraid, but more than that, they were ashamed. After the vote passed, the speaker looked across the room. Let this remind us all, he said. We speak of peace, but peace is more than words. It must be guarded, and it must be respected. Outside the council station, the disabled Vorian ships remained. They had not been removed. They were now a reminder, a quiet symbol floating in space. Many ships came close, scanned them, and left. In silence, in a small outpost on a quiet moon, a message from Earth finally arrived. It was not a call, not a speech, just a file. Dorvian was the one chosen to open it. He sat in front of the screen as the file played. It showed the galaxy's map. Parts of it glowed red zones of conflict, places of growing danger. Then slowly they dimmed. A voice, calm and steady, followed. We are not watchers, we're not rulers, but we are not blind. Where peace fails, we may appear once, only once. Let that be enough. Then the screen turned black. Dorvian leaned back in his chair. He knew what that meant. Earth was not coming to join the council. It had no interest in politics. It would not take sides. But they were watching, and the galaxy now understood. Humans kept their promises. Even after centuries, Captain Lyrak received a copy of the message. He shared it with his crew, then stood before them. What happened here was not an invasion, he said. It was a warning. And a gift? A gift? One officer asked. Lyrak nodded. You're still alive. The summit is still standing. The galaxy has another chance. Let's not waste it. Far away, deep in human space, no ships moved, no signals were sent. Their worlds remained silent to outsiders, but their systems were awake, their fleets were ready, and in the dark old. Warships floated silent like the one that visited ZHEL-Tor. They were not forgotten. They were patient. Weeks turned into months, but the memory of the human warship never faded. Even in the far corners of the galaxy, people still spoke of the day it appeared. It had not fired a single shot, yet it had changed everything. On board the Galactic Council Station, things were different now. Meetings began on time. Leaders listened more, argued less. Peace talks that once felt useless were now moving forward. Not because the aliens had suddenly trusted each other, because they remembered what silence could bring. Dorvin sat in the library section of the station, reviewing old human history files. New data from Earth's forgotten records had been shared after the warship's appearance. Most of it was simple photos, logs, maps, but some parts revealed the mindset of humans. We do not want to rule the stars. One human leader had once said in an old video, we want to live in peace, but if the stars fall into chaos, we will act. not with pride, but with purpose. Dorvin closed the file and leaned back. He understood now. Humans had not left the galaxy because they were weak. They had left because they believed the galaxy had to learn without them. But now, after 500 years, they had returned. Just once, to remind everyone. On the edge of human space, an outpost ship named Eclipse 7 received a visitor. It was not a council ship, nor a fleet vessel. It was a small civilian craft. Carrying a young diplomat named Liera, she'd asked to speak with any human official, even if only through a recording. She waited for hours in the quiet docking bay. Finally, a screen lit up. A calm male voice spoke. It was not a live call. We received your message, Lyra. We do not open our borders to visitors. But we hear your voice. Continue the peace you are building. You do not need our presence. You only need memory. The message ended, and the screen went dark again. Lyra smiled. Even a short message from Earth meant everything. It was not control, it was hope. Elsewhere in the galaxy, something even more surprising began to happen. Pirate groups started to disappear. Warlords who ruled weak systems vanished overnight. Unknown forces were clearing out dangerous zones, but not for power. No. One saw who was behind it, but many believed it was them, the Watchers, the humans. On a remote desert world, an old alien named Melek told stories to young hatchlings. Did they attack? One child asked. No, Melek said. They arrived, showed the truth, and left. But why didn't they stay? Because their strength is not in staying, he replied. It's in making sure we don't forget. The story of the Warship became legend. Not as a tale of fear, but as a lesson. A symbol of silent justice. A reminder that the galaxy was never alone and that someone, somewhere, still cared. On the council station, Dorvin placed a new plaque on the central wall. It read, Peace is not weak. Justice is not loud. And silence is never empty. Under the words was the symbol of Earth. A blue planet inside a ring of stars? The message was clear to all who passed by from that day on. Every species that joined the council had to read the story of the warship before taking their seat. It became part of the oath, and somewhere deep. In the stars, human ships floated quietly, watching, not as rulers, not as gods, but as guardians, ready to appear once more if the galaxy ever forgot.